guys, it's Jordan and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to tell you all about the books that I read in November. I had a really good reading month this past month. I read a lot of really great books. I gave everything either 4 or 5 stars, so definitely didn't lack in the quality department at all. Let's go ahead and check in with my TBR and see how I did off of that, because I really don't think I got any of the books off my TBR. I don't even remember what I put on my TBR. You can see I read 2 of the books on my TBR. The other 2 I didn't get to. The first book I finished this month was Gemina by Kristoff and Amie Kaufman, and I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed this. This is a sequel to Illuminae. We are on a waypoint jump station. So basically it is the point in space where you can travel through light years of time very quickly. It's a wormhole. On the station's wormhole, we follow the daughter of the station's captain and this boy that is a part of the local drug scene. They are really immersive, like you really feel like it's an experience when you read these. I really enjoyed this one, not as much as Illuminae. I just felt like some of the tropes and concepts and ideas that they used in Illuminae that made Illuminae so unique and so mind-blowing were recycled in this book. And it's just like, but we already did that. And you already gutted me in that way, so I need you to gut me in a new way that I'm not really expecting. So that was like the one downside. So I felt there were 2 really major storylines that were copied from the first book, and it just felt recycled. However, if they bring that into play in the 3rd book as well, it becomes kind of a trend and a cohesive unit to the story, brings them all full circle, then I think it's going to be fine. I think it will work out really well in the end, but as of right now, not having read the 3rd book, I don't know if it's just recycled ideas or if it's a cohesive unit of a story, but I really enjoyed this one. Actually brought tears to my eyes. I almost cried while reading this because I was so torn up over a certain character and the events that that certain character was going through. I really liked the main characters in this one. I really liked Ezra and Katie, and I became very attached to them, and I was kind of worried how I would feel about not following them in this book. I really ended up liking Hannah and Nick almost just as much. Hannah is a really feisty, independent warrior girl. Like, she's just so sassy, and I just really like how she was written. And then Nick is this bad boy drug dealer type dude, but he's really sarcastic and he's really full of himself and arrogant, and I just really liked him as well. But after that, I picked up Day Zero by Kresley which is the prequel companion guidebook to the Arcana Chronicles series, I guess is the best way to describe this. It's written kind of like a guidebook. In the beginning of this book, there's a little foreword written by Kresley that said this was meant to be a guide for the producers and writers and people working on the TV show to help keep all of the different arcana straight, the different abilities straight. There is quite a large cast of characters and they all have very unique traits and abilities, and as she was writing this guidebook for them, it became much larger than what she expected. This is marketed as 3.5, so it comes after Dead of Winter, and I would definitely recommend to read it at that point. Although it's a great way to introduce yourself to all the characters because it's a list of all the characters, it gives away a lot of things in the first 3 books that I felt like were really well done and well revealed throughout the series, the big overarching connections between all the characters, and it gets ruined in this, so I wouldn't really recommend reading this until you finished Dead of Winter. I did really enjoy this. I ended up giving it a 4 out of 5 stars. I felt like it was a really good companion to the series. I felt that I learned a bit more about the characters. It recounts the day of the Flash, which is the apocalyptic event in this world, from several of the main characters' points of views and several of the side characters' main points of view. So you really see how all these different Arcana members were living their life before the apocalypse and then what happened leading up to that big event and how they dealt with the actual event of the apocalypse. I came to find myself really loving and enjoying some of the characters that ended up dying throughout the series, and there's no mention of who is still alive in the series at this point and who's already dead. I would read a story and be like, that's so fascinating, I really like this character. I would reference the death list in the 4th book and realize that they've been dead since book 1. I'm like, dang it, I wish that she would have included when the character died and how they died and by whose hand, so I could keep that all straight in my head as well. But aside from that, I really enjoyed this. After that, I naturally went right into Arcana Rising by Kresley, which is the 4th book in the series. I believe it is the penultimate book. I think that the 5th book is the final book. I ended up giving this a 4 out of 5 stars as well, maybe a 4.5. I don't know. The more removed I am from this book, the more I realize how much I really actually enjoyed it. I wrote a very, very lengthy review for this book on Goodreads. It's basically a book talk on Goodreads. So if you've read this series and you want to check out all of my theorizing ideas, because I had so many different theories floating around in my head, I will link it down below and you can check it out because I'm really, really proud of that review. It felt like this was a much better book than book 3 because book 3 was really, really focused on the love triangle between the 3 main characters. I mean, it was all about going back and forth and what this person's doing to win her heart and what this person's doing to win her heart. At the end of that book, an event happens where she's kind of forced into one side of the love triangle. The love triangle is pretty much, it's not dead in this book, but it's a lot less emphasized. And I really liked that because that meant that we could focus a lot more on the plot and the development of the story and where we were going to end up going. Because book 3 didn't have a whole lot of plot. Let me tell you, the character that she's with in this book and her together, so swoony. I don't even know who I want her to pick. I don't know who I like better because I like them both. They're both kind of dark, mysterious, really bad characters. Morally gray characters. Villains, if you will, in some aspects. Bad boys. So they're totally both my type. And because of that, I have a really hard time deciding who I like better. I am on book 4 and I still don't know who I'm rooting for, but I really, really enjoyed this one. And then after that, I decided to pick up All In by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, which I gave a 4 out of 5 stars. This is the 3rd book in the Natural series. I would say it's on par for me with book 2. Book 2 and book 3 felt very similar to me in that they weren't as gripping and as emotionally taxing as book 1. Like book 1 gave me so much anxiety. I was up so late reading it. I read it in almost a sitting. And books 2 and 3 just felt a little bit slower paced. They were much more focused on like the strategics of catching the killer than of the crazy psyche of the killer and chase of the killer. It was more like the strategics behind the scenes. And I just didn't care for the murder cases as much in books 2 and 3. In this one, we traveled to Las Vegas because there have been a string of murders showing up in various casinos down the strip. FBI team is lending a hand to the local Las Vegas police to help solve this string of murders, which they feel could possibly be related to a serial killer. So it sounds really interesting, but personally, this wasn't my favorite in the series. I still liked book 1 the best at this point. However, this one sets up for the most epic conclusion of all time. I loved what this did for the final book. It set up this super interesting, dark, twisted mystery surrounding these murders. There was so much more to it, and it was just, oh my gosh. It just led so well into the 4th book, which ended up being the last book that I read this month. Lastly, I picked up Bad Blood by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, which is the 4th and final book in the Natural series. This was a spectacular conclusion. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. This one was on par with book 1. I mean, they were just so intense and emotionally draining, and I was just so worried for our characters, and it made me so anxious, and it was exactly the feeling that you want to have when you're reading a crime, murder, mystery, thriller type story. And I wasn't getting that vibe with books 2 and 3, but this brought it all back. This was a slam dunk, home run, goal at the final buzzer conclusion. It was so good. It's definitely one of my favorite books of the year by far. I love how it built off 3rd book. I love how it tied back into the 1st book and it brought everything full circle. Jennifer Lynn Barnes is so talented at writing crime stories, and I hope that she comes out in the future with more of these crime YA books. So well done. I loved this book. So these are the 5 books that I read in November. If you've read any of these books, I'd love to know what you thought of them in the comments down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, I'll talk to you very soon. Bye!